everyone, welcome to the last episode of our series of webinars dedicated to explain you the nature of IFS Cloud projects. Today I have the occasion to talk to Klaus Klassmann and Lars Steen from Novacura. Guys, please introduce yourself to those who start listening to our series from this episode.
Yes, I'm Klaus Klassmann. I'm managing the project office at Novacura, and I have a bunch of colleagues that represent the global knowledge of Novacura, and we work with supplying our implementation projects with the right methodology and tools to be successful.
And when you mention these projects, it's mainly connected to IFS, right?
It's IFS Cloud implementations primarily, yes.
Or upgrades.
Or upgrades.
Yes. How about you, Lars?
Yes. Hi everyone, I'm Lars Steen. I am Vice President here at Novacura. I head up our service division, consisting of about 100 IFS consultants operating in 10 countries.
Super. This is the last episode of our series. We are all tired. But this one has a very suggestive title. It's how to prepare I would like to look at the exact wording, how to plan the IFS upgrade project. Of course, it could take 12 hours to record the ultimate guidebook on how to do that, and it will still not be enough. We decided to organize it in a form of a kind of checklist where we just mention things that we've been discussing in the past webinars that we recorded, and we would like to gather everything on one page. In this episode, we actually would like to collect all the topics we've been discussing in the last few webinars and present it in the form of kind of checklist. So people who are willing to plan the upgrade project in their organization could look at it and check if they didn't forget about some important aspects of this planning process. Now, when you plan such a complicated project, you probably need to divide it into three phases. The first phase is obviously you need to understand your situation. So you could name it analyze the situation, right? So you need to analyze it. The second phase would be to make a strategical decisions based on the facts, the evidence that you just gathered during this analysis phase. And the third step, based on what you learned about your company, what decisions you took, is to plan the details. So we have three phases, and I would like you to tell us more about each and every phase of these three. But before we do that, we need to remember that we've been talking about a lot of challenges that you might face during the upgrade project. So all these challenges, both technical and also organizational, they must be addressed in this plan, in this upgrade plan. So if you potentially consider a problem with modifications or legacy system integration, this problem needs to be addressed in the upgrade plan, obviously. So let's jump into the phase one, which is analyze the current situation and what you should take into consideration when you analyze the context, the background for the upgrade project. Maybe let's start with you, Lars.
Yes, then I would like to start with your IFS agreement, your license agreement with the software vendor. You might think that you will just continue your old agreement, but with cloud, there is a new license agreement that everyone needs to sign. It has a different business model, as we talked about earlier. It goes from perpetual to a subscription model, where you subscribe to the software for 3 or 5 years. Basically. That's one important part of it. Another part of it is that IFS is turning into a software vendor dealing and taking responsibility only for core standard software. Nothing to do with the customer unique solution. And this means that you as a customer need to be responsible for everything that you put on top of the standard software. All your integrations, all your data, all your configurations, and every integration that you have in your solution, that's on your responsibility.
Good that you mentioned that in the beginning, because I think it has an impact on everything you plan, because there is like a gap here, uncovered area that you need to address somehow in your plan, right?
Absolutely. And I think that most customers already have got an option or a new offer from IFS on the table. So it's probably not a new experience for anyone. But there is one more item that I think customers should think about here, and that is that IFS will be part of your project. As a software vendor, they will place the standard software, all the corrections, all the new releases, all the software updates in the build place. And from the build place, you as a customer are responsible. And that means that IFS will have to interact with your project all the way, not only post-live, but also during the project. So that's a difference. And the agreement is important. And there's actually items in that agreement that you as a customer should be aware of.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good idea to start with analyzing the agreements and highlight the risky
I think so. So make a note of that.
Yeah. Okay. Good. What would you add, Claes?
Well, I would add that the agreement also, of course, states what you will use of IFS Cloud, what components will you use, and that differs between your current installation. So you need to be very aware of what you use today. Many customers have a lot of components installed, but they don't use them, and they do not always know what they actually use then. So for moving forward, you get a new license agreement, which will be the set of components, and also the users. How many full users will you have? How many limited use users will you have? And to have a good understanding of that scope will position you to have good agreement talks with IFS.
I guess it has a huge impact on the price you will get, right? So the more modules you choose, the more expensive it would be. So it's really crucial to understand of what you are currently using, right? That's the motivation.
It is, yes. Okay. There's a technical specific to that as well, because you may choose to add additional components because you want to consolidate software, but you may consolidate it later. But if you add components, you will also add dependencies in your installations. So that's a specific thing that you also will need to be aware of.
But obviously, if you currently have something installed but you don't use it, it makes a perfect sense to get rid of that from the new scope, right?
Obviously, yes.
So, yeah. But I mean, it's so easy to say that, but sometimes it's not so easy to get this knowledge, right, about what is really in use and what is not. So that's the starting point. How about the other aspects? I mean, maybe more technical of what should be analyzed.
Regarding related to agreements?
No, I mean
in general.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, as we talked and explained to you before, there are three different strategies mainly, and your analysis need to give you the answers to choose the right strategy. So you need to in detail know the functional scope that you want for your business, and compare that capability that IFS Cloud offers to your probably customized installation today. So understand what customization can you get rid of, what opportunities and value can you get from the new features of IFS Cloud. That's one. The other one is, of course, to understand how should that fit with your current systems landscape. So will you consolidate systems into IFS Cloud? Will you replace your HR system, or will you replace your CRM system, or your manufacturing execution system, or parts of it, and so on? And in addition to that, of course, with this new system landscape, how should you integrate then? Will you at this point integrate in a integration platform? Do you have a diverse set of ways of integrating today, and should you actually pave the path for the future and really use a common integration platform? And with that, we move to managing data. In that system landscape, you need to manage your master data, and you need to understand where you come from in a sense of the data quality you have. So you need to analyze the data quality. You need to have an idea of how should you manage the master data across the system landscape moving forward. So, and
I think data quality analysis,
when you have all of that, then you need to go back and ask yourself, okay, which of these three strategies should I choose?
We'll talk about it later in a second. I would like to come back to the data quality topic. That is one of your favorite, I guess. I think the analysis of that aspect is especially important, because sometimes you can't really map the existing data structures onto the new data structures that exist in IFS Cloud. So you really need to think it over and redesign it. So when you do that, you really need to take a look at your existing data and the mess that you sometimes have in the data, right? And design the future state. So you can't avoid it. You can't import the mess to a new system because it's different, right? So you need to analyze this state. Another aspect that I think should be emphasized is the existing modification. I mean, you mentioned that, but the preparation of the whole evidence of the modifications that you have, and then the decision on what to rebuild in the new version, what could be replaced by the standard functionality, right? Because there are some new features that it's one part of this process, but also there are some modifications that existed before, but maybe they are no longer in use. So it's a typical like do or not do decision, right? For that, and it has to be analyzed, right, in this first phase.
Yes, and you need to consider it all the way to understand the change in the user community if you remove modifications and understand what is required to adopt a standard way of working for the user community. How much of change will that introduce, and how will you manage that change?
I think when we say analyze it, it doesn't mean that the IT director or ERP owner would analyze it on himself or herself. It's just something that you do together with your organization, right? It's just that you require, it requires a lot of time. Especially when you decide to remove your existing HR system from the equation, and you would like to choose the new HR system. It's a huge change for an organization, right? So it's not something that the IT director does on himself, right?
It's
definitely
more definitely complex. It's something that you benefit from if you have someone that is the sponsor or a group that we typically call it, which, as we talked about before, the operating steering group that actually is the glue between the upper management and the C-level and the operations, and to make the decisions that actually can understand the impact of the benefits and also the cost of the managing the change. So that's a key success factor to have that glue between the top level and the lower level business.
Operational level, I think there is one more thing. You mentioned that, but again, this is this whole new OData API that is established with IFS Cloud. It actually existed in the earlier version, right? But it hasn't
in
been
IFS 10,
right?
So we Novacura started already with IFS 10 to work on our capabilities of using REST OData.
But for very many customers, this would be a new part with IFS Cloud. They didn't use it with IFS 10, right?
Yeah.
So for them, this is a whole topic to be analyzed because they probably have a lot of legacy systems, right? And to understand the difference in the OData API versus the old PL/SQL API, you really need to analyze like very many aspects, like performance, like how to deal with database transactions that existed in the past and you can't have it in the stateless world, right? So there are very many aspects. By the way, we created a big guidebook that our customers can download from our website, where we actually collected, if I remember it correctly, more than 40, almost 50 questions that are connected to this OData API and in general to IFS Cloud integration. We collected these questions together with some answers. So I think it's viable for the customers to download this, I could call it a library of Bible.
That should definitely support them in the analysis and the decision making.
In better understanding the nature of and the difference between the OData world and the previous API. Yeah. Okay, so these are the topics that you need to analyze, and once you did that, there is a time for these strategical decisions. So as you mentioned, one is this key fundamental decision regarding if you should do the technical upgrade or full migration, right? Do I name it correctly?
Yes, as it relates to getting your current data that you have in your database available with IFS Cloud. There are two ways of doing that. Technically, one is to upgrading the database. The other one is actually to move the data from the old database to the new empty database. And both have pros and cons. I mean, if you upgrade, it will be quicker. You will not need to make so many decisions on how to structure and use the data. And also, not to forget actually, is that if you upgrade the data, it will be as before in many aspects. Because even if IFS Cloud has a lot of new functionality, it's still just on the top 10% or 15% of what you have now functionality-wise. So that is, let's see, I lost my point there.
I think you were saying the pros and cons of the upgrade way.
Yes.
And then, of course, we have the migration way.
Yes.
So there are pros and cons of that way as well.
So the advantage of the upgrade is, so that's the point I wanted to make, is that you don't have to have with your user community and your key users, they don't have to have the absolute knowledge of how everything is set up in the current system and why you have the basic data, because that is just there when you do the upgrade. If you migrate,
then you need to understand.
You need to understand it. You need to, because you need to set it up again, and you need to understand
in a new way,
in a new way and how it works. The drawback of the upgrade is, of course, that you need to go big bang. Of course, the middle alternative that we said, where you just focus on consolidating system and have less of data harmonization and less of process harmonization, you can do both. I mean, you can upgrade one site and then you migrate the others. And in many cases, the installations where you have many sites and they may have the same business and operate the same way, you can take the one that is more advanced, more mature than the other ones,
Yep.
and upgrade, and then you migrate the ones that are slightly lagging in their operational excellence.
Yeah, there would be not so big difference for them because they don't use the system that deeply, right?
Yeah.
I think that the key arguments for choosing the right strategy will come together with the results of the analysis phase. I mean, if you see that you have a lot of problems with data quality and a lot of integrations to handle, you might probably choose the easier option because you have a lot of complexity around it. So, I mean, it will, of course, it will be based on the results from the analysis phase. Now, how about the environments? I mean, hosting environments.
Yeah.
It's another part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Could you?
So, yeah, I can expand on that. You need to make the decision at some point in time. How are you going to operate your ERP system moving forward? You can do that after actually doing the upgrade or the migration, and throughout the project you will learn a lot and you will understand better to make that advised decision. And as we said before, there are a lot of advantages of actually hosting in a environment where you have more freedom and can maybe use more tools to manage data and to analyze things than in a more set up and closed managed cloud environment. Yeah. Which either can be IFS or any other managed cloud operations, because they're their sole purpose is to have stability, security, and so on, which is perfect in the production environment. When you implement, you need a lot of flexibility. You need to analyze errors, analyze data,
really quick
move
changes,
data, copy databases, and all of that.
Backups. I think this is really important that you mentioned that you don't need to decide it up front. You can start your project and use the test environment, your local one, to do this project effectively, right? To have the ability to implement changes and all.
And you don't need to decide whether you should upgrade or migrate either. And one way of doing it is, as we've mentioned before, is to do an initial upgrade and understand how does your data look like in the new setting.
The new system,
and then you do your analysis and testing and all of that, and then you have an informed decision when you make that you can make whether you should migrate or upgrade.
Yeah. Sure. I think one of the areas where you need to make this key decisions is you need to choose the right partner, and I'm not only referring to the upgrade partner, but also you need to select additional software. Like, for instance, if you would like to use integration platform or engine for handling all the integrations. Sometimes you need this middleware between legacy systems and
what we've seen with the IFS Cloud projects we've run now, customers struggle somewhat with this. They understand the benefits of actually consolidating on a integration platform or procuring a new integration platform, because they know that's probably a good thing for the future, and with IFS Cloud in the cloud environment. But it's not definite that you have to do that. I mean, you can still have point-to-point integrations with IFS Cloud, and you can still use IFS Connect and connectivity and SOAP messages and file-based integrations, and even actually data migration tool. You can still use. Many customers use the data migration tool.
Doesn't sound very modern.
But it's not the way the future will look like. But you can actually manage that if you go for the third option, to
I treat it as a temporary solution
to IFS Cloud.
Maybe like a workaround that you use for for a certain period of time to just upgrade, like finalize the upgrade, but then you need to get rid of that. I mean, if you want to be in the cloud, you can still reside.
Yeah, but many customers have this window of opportunity to go live with things because of competing projects and changes in their business. So it's important to understand that this option is there, and but also understand that in the end, in not too distant future, you will have to accomplish probably alternative one, which is the biggest ambition level. But you can do it in one or several upgrades.
And Klaus mentioned here a lot of decisions that are really necessary for customers to take upfront, because our ambition is to run a predictable project where we are able to state when and where we can go live. So leaving these decisions to the project about how to do the future integrations, for instance, will just open up a big discussion inside a project. And we don't want that. We'd rather prefer a policy decision upfront. And also with the hosting question, of course, we have seen that customers are running remotely on a hosting partner or with IFS Managed Cloud. But the benefit of controlling the environment, which you get with a remotely hosted, is that you actually control the response time for all the deliveries that comes from IFS during a project. And that the evidence so far, our experience so far, is that that's a bit unpredictable, which actually leads to a longer project time and not being able to secure the go live date as firm as you would like to do.
Even if you have buffers, you would eat it quite
absolutely. So the cloud version in this new world, everything we request from the software vendor will come through tickets. And the ticketing system is not what we are used to historically. Historically, we turned to a technical guy who helped us. The day after, we would have a refreshed environment, or the day after, we would have a new printer or a new set of configurations.
Done by IFS, right?
Yeah. Right now, we send in a ticket for that, and we don't know exactly when we will get that new request delivered. So that adds to the complexity, and it adds to the timeline.
I guess everything stops. I mean, if you request for something, then you need to wait until it's refreshed.
It's I'm not saying that it's not working. It's working, but we don't know exactly when.
It's not that flexible. You can't control it and predict in 100%, which means it's less.
Exactly, and that's why we arrived at the solution. Well, you don't need to go there for the project. You can decide to go there after the project.
But for the production, this might be acceptable. I mean, you don't change it that often. You don't require this backups and everything that often. So it might be more stable solution for you. How about, a part of this key decision, strategical decision, is also envisioning of the future organization and, designing the future organization to handle the new evergreen situation. Could you tell me some more about it?
Absolutely. As we said several times, we're going to a cloud future, and the target here is to become evergreen, meaning that we will run this frequent upgrade in a way to be more closer to the latest version of the software. That means that your organization, all the customers' organization, needs to take a grip on their solution, make new decisions, include new functionality, maybe once a year, instead of doing that every 5 years earlier. So this means that every customer needs to think about and make decisions about key people. Who is going to be part of the project and who is going to be there facilitating, testing, making decisions for new functionality and new releases as we go forward in the evergreen state. So keep that in mind and make that decision already when you start the project. That's the best way of getting the best people and best knowledge during the project.
I guess there must be someone who will constantly review the release notes, the expected new functionalities, would distribute it across the organization to the right people. Like if there is a process owner responsible for, I don't know, HR area, he should get the list of upcoming features, right, dedicated for his department, the other person for his department. The feedback should be collected. You need to train the people for the upcoming change, right? And you need to do that twice a year, for instance, right? If this is IFS Managed Cloud, do I understand it correctly? You can't resist from the new version. It will just appear on particular date?
No, that's not correct. You will always request the new release or a new service update, and IFS will put it in build place, and then you will prepare it, put your customer unique objects on top of that, and promote it to production once it's tested and ready.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
This is good, but still, I guess it makes sense to do it on a regular basis, to not lagging behind the top version they had.
Klaus and his team of solution architects, they read the release notes when they arrive, and likewise the customer need advice on where to look and how to maybe evaluate new functionality and think about their future solution with a release plan in mind. So the next release might be, I don't know, 6-8 months from now.
Yeah.
So what do we include in that release, and how do we get there in a safe way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a whole new organization, whole new processes, right?
Yeah. Might not be a massive change, but I think my advice to customers is take the advantage of using these projects to identify key people in your organization that will drive your solution as you go forward.
Yeah. I think they need to be somewhat more than super users. You need a set of people that actually have the ownership of continuously develop the use of the solution. And as we said, they need to sort of have a foot or a reference team, as you refer to super users, and the understanding of the application and be able to assess the impact of new features in their business. And that's what Lars said, that my team is constantly doing with the new releases that come, that we really try to be on top of that, to be the best advisors to those
like
people.
change agents, right? They want push for.
Customers are paying, they are subscribing to new functionality to the software. So why don't take advantage of new features and new good stuff that IFS produces?
I mean, the answer is that you must be prepared for that constant changes, right? So prepare your organization, because if you subscribe to the new version of the system but you don't utilize the newest functionalities, it's like the stupidest decision you could make. So, I mean, together with the system, to utilize its whole benefit, potential, you need to set up this new organization. It doesn't have to be like big new department. It's actually, you can do it that way, right? If I understand it correctly, this might be established across the people that know their processes the best, and like the super users, you need to have someone who will push for the changes, who will constantly analyze the release notes. But you need to set up this organization. Otherwise, you will have a new system, but you will use it in the way you use the old version, right? So it doesn't make sense at all. Yeah. Okay, that's an important aspect. So if we can land on the ground now, so after the analysis phase, after the key decisions has been taken, you need to put everything on paper and prepare the plan, right? To the schedule and like list all the activities, and of course plan the budget. To create a short checklist on what should exist in that plan, what could you mention?
Yes, as we said, people is most important, to include the right people and have an idea on how to build the knowledge with those people when running the project. because you need those people to be educated when you move into the evergreen state. So you need to really get them up front. And that's on one side the solution as the features as Lars talked about. On the other hand is managing the data. So I think it's strong recommendation from our side what we see is actually to set up the data governance organization and have the data, those people that are assigned to that organization and set as owners of certain data to actually be part of the implementation and set up the data or advise in how to set up the data in the project. That's key.
I try to look at what you just mentioned from the project plan perspective. So it means that you need to plan the activity, right, to establish this structure, right, this group of people, establish some processes around it, and so the privileges and so on. The other thing is that you need to plan the trainings for the super users who will be involved in the very early stage, right? You need to plan it. And then, of course, which is typical, the trainings for the end user, regular users. When it comes to this, the super users who will be involved in early stages, I think it's super important to also offer real demo environment for them on the very early stage. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And I think there's when you mention super users, there are two levels of them. The first level is the ones that are actually included in the upgrade team, the implementation team that should learn and make decisions on how to use the new functionality and assess whether you can use the standard functionality instead of using migration, or use the standard functionality of IFS Cloud instead of using any other third-party tool. But the next level is what you call the super users, and the super users needs to get involved fairly early as well to be to measure the capability of how you train the end users and get them up to speed. So we typically strongly recommend that it's the super users, which is this next level of users, that actually do what's called the operational readiness test. So you run the end user training with the super users. They run transactions in the operation readiness test, and then you get the benefit of understanding that yes, they can actually run the business with the training they received.
Okay. And
so it's very much recommended to work in that way. But in the end, as you said, it's extremely important to get the application in front of them as early as possible. And the best way is actually to do this technical upgrade, so they immediately see their own data and get a benefit of handling their own data with the new interface and all
instead
that.
of slide decks and PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we are talking about the plan. Another thing is that what you should include in the plan is probably if you choose to use an alternative environment for hosting, you need to plan it in your project plan. You need to plan the selection of this installation, the preparation, and the whole installation. It's obvious. Integration is another topic that you need to include in the plan, right? So it's a whole bunch of activities here, and probably also if you consider to implement this middleware or integration platform, it should also exist in the plan. I'm trying to speed up because it's now time to just to conclude. Another thing is obviously you need to plan all your modifications. So after the analysis, you probably currently know which ones you want to keep, which means you need to rebuild it. Maybe you would consider the use of low-code platform, as we mentioned in earlier episode, to like get rid of modifications from the core ERP, to keep it clean, free of modifications, and to build whatever is necessary for your end users, for your processes in a separate tool, right? But you need to include it in your plan. So everything about modifications. How about other things like you mentioned that when you, I mean, we are still in the planning phase, right? You plan the upgrade project.
Yeah.
How about the buffers, time buffers for something?
Yeah,
Where should you?
I also need to mention that you will probably, when you plan to start the upgrade, you don't get into the nitty-gritty details of modifications and how to resolve them, but you do have the plan for with what tools and how should you resolve them. So the decision on using a low-code platform should be made, and also to get this initial understanding of the capabilities of how to configure the Arena interface and the user experience. But there's two levels to that. I mean, with the as we said before, that you only get so far with actually optimizing the Arena interface and other automation and adding capabilities. You probably want to choose a local platform.
Okay, I mean, when you do the project plan and when you especially focus on the schedule, you usually should consider some buffers. And I mean, it shouldn't be just buffer because we want the buffer. It should be somehow implicated by something, right? So what are the reasons for having these buffers?
The reason you should have the two things. You should have buffers and you should have gates, and you should make sure that you actually have the right level of evidence and maturity at a certain gate. I mean, we have a key gate, which is in IFS terminology the end of confirmed prototype, where you should have an understanding of your solution definition. And that's really key, that you at that point in time actually have used for the critical areas true demo cases that allowed you to really explore and assess the capabilities and features of the solution for that critical, very critical process.
Another thing, just to add to that,
sure.
Because traditionally, when we do an upgrade or make an ERP implementation, we install the latest software and then we go live with the same version.
So I would like to come back to these time buffers, because usually it's not just random time buffer. It's a consequence of something, of some risks that you see. What are the risks that you should mitigate with additional time buffer in the upgrade project? I mean, anything specific?
Well, in the cloud projects we run so far, it's not too different to any ERP implementation. Is that you have different maturity and different areas, and you try to bring it all together, because in the end you need to have an end-to-end process working all the way through. But typically, some areas need more time. And then you need to find a way of allowing them that time and bring everything together, and to allow for that excessive time of, for instance, strategic procurement or operative procurement, or whatever area is sort of lagging, to bring it all together. That's one reason to have some buffer
to not have everything on a critical path.
I mean, consider all your users are going to have a new interface. I mean, that might be a small task, but it could be a big task. I mean, we have customers with thousands of users, maybe not users that spend a lot of time in front of the laptops every day, but also users that are really out in the business, service technicians, people like that, and they don't have time to attend training as people in the office, for instance. Things like that you need to consider.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's not a buffer. It's just a regular task that should be, like, included in the plan, that you need to train them and test the knowledge, and it's just a task. But of course, it's very important here. I was actually thinking about the situation with the IFS Managed Cloud. You said that this could expand the time because you deal with tickets. And it's not that flexible. So if you choose the IFS Managed Cloud environment for the project phase, I guess you should add additional time buffer for some uncertain delays here, right?
Yeah. Initially, we didn't put any extra time in there. We just expected all the tickets to be delivered within reasonable time. But of course, it's like a best effort from IFS Cloud Ops, and everything is working. They are delivering, but we don't know when and where. So I would today, planning a project, I would add extra time for it. Definitely.
Yeah. So, okay, and last thing that bothers me is integration. I mean, it's a whole, if you decide to use OData and if you exclusively prepare one of your systems or several of them to cooperate with this new OData API, I guess this might cause a lot of risks. But one of these is that is it a fact that there might be some missing projections and endpoints in this OData API, and because of that it might expand the duration of the project? Or
as we've said, I mean, IFS Cloud comes with about 5,000 plus projections, and each projections maybe have up to 1,000 methods and APIs in itself within the projection,
right?
Endpoints, and that's extremely it's a challenge to be productive in providing those REST OData integrations. Because of
the complexity
the complexity of actually finding what APIs you should use, and how to orchestrate the interactions between them.
So but if we imagine this situation for a while, you need to integrate with this new OData API. You move from the classical PL/SQL to this world with the existing system. Where do you see the biggest risk? That the development process will be, will take longer because of this complexity, or maybe you will face problems during the integration test, like performance problems, or I don't know, database transaction problems, that there is a data inconsistency. Where do you see the biggest risk here?
The biggest risk, I think, is productivity in the integration, the time it takes to build integrations with REST OData.
Because of that complexity.
Because of the complexity and finding out what to call and how to manage a series of events that you need to orchestrate, and how to do that in the best possible way. I think that's a risk, but it's also, of course, a huge advantage with IFS exposing all this logic. I mean, you can do anything. You can have a great world with IFS applications and REST OData. You just need to
understand
how to use it and be productive in that usage.
And this is still a relatively new area. I mean, OData is the well-known standard, but it all boils down to these 5,000 projections and thousands of endpoints that you still need to know, right?
Yeah, and to a certain point, the way IFS has implemented the OData standard in the APIs.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, I think it's time to sum it up. And in the whole series of webinars, we've been presenting what's connected to this IFS Cloud Upgrade projects. I mean, we were referring to a lot of benefits, but of course we were very transparent in presenting the challenges. But we still believe that you can, you know, you can deal with them, you can find solutions, the right solutions, and it all boils down to the good plan that you prepare before actually starting the upgrade projects, because if you fail in strategical decisions, I mean, of course you can change some decisions later, but usually it's better to think it over before you start. So, and the plan, as we discussed it today, and again, it was really, we are just touching the surface, right? Scratching the surface. It's a very complicated task to do for customers who have no experience with IFS Cloud. I mean, it's so easy for you to describe these problems because you've been participating in many upgrade projects. So you could imagine what you have in mind when you talk about these challenges with integration with APIs and all this when you were referring to the agreements. But our customers don't have this experience, right? For them, these are just topics that are like somehow unknown, right? So I think what's important is that we at Novacura, we can support customers in that journey in this very early stage. So what we propose for the customers is not just the entire upgrade project as a contract from Novacura, but we can also support them in this very initial phase, right? We can prepare the plan for them without I mean, they don't need to decide to choose Novacura for the entire upgrade project. They can just decide to use our knowledge and experience to help them build the predictable plan, right? Is it correct statement?
Yeah, I think so. We can help them get to this strategy decision as a starter, for example.
So to quickly present what will they get, I guess they will get a document or set of documents that are prepared this is the plan that we deliver, right?
Yes.
This is the output deliverable from that project, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, we have offering where we take the customer from a starting point with starting analyzing what they have today and the environment they exist in today, all the way to actually have proven the critical parts of their solution and provided evidence to it, and be ready to actually do the actual upgrade then, which is the endpoint there I'm talking about, is the end of confirmed prototype.
Yeah.
But then we can, of course, portion out in different packages the road from starting from 0 to confirmed prototype as a planning phase.
Yeah. So my last question is, how long does it usually take if we help the customers do that?
Given that we can provide different packages, if you just choose an initial package of analyzing as is right now and looking at some prerequisites of taking that step, then that could be down to 2 weeks just to get this first understanding. And then you have maybe going all the way, it's between 3 to 6 or even 8 months if you have a large and complex installation, and also opt for a big change and analysis.
And I guess after that phase, I mean, when we consider this, let's name it 6 months period, after that phase, you have a clear picture on what will come next. You can really plan your upgrade project and you can be very precise in it. So if you have this time window for this upgrade project, you can really precisely point the dates and plan the trainings and everything that surrounds this process, which is very good.
As Lars pointed out, I mean, to be able to be predictable and actually be able to state September 2025, we will be live.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and also to allow for this longer time period is also to allow for involving the right people at the customer site to make the really the right decision, and also to start building the knowledge and ownership with the customer organization that can handle in the future the evergreen mode.
Yeah. Guys, that was the last episode that we recorded for that series. Maybe we will record an addendum one day if we receive some feedback from customers, and maybe there are some topics that they would like to include in the additional episodes. Thank you so much for this participation, for your preparation, for sharing your experience and knowledge. And what can I say? I wish you best in the next upcoming upgrade projects. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucas.
Bye-bye. That's all for the episode number 5. This was also the last episode of our entire series of episodes dedicated to explain the nature of IFS Cloud Upgrade project. I hope you liked it. For those who haven't watched the other episodes, I strongly recommend doing that. In the entire series, we cover very interesting topics in regards to IFS Cloud Upgrade projects, such as why is it worth upgrading to IFS Cloud, when to do that, what's the best suitable IFS Cloud Upgrade strategy for your company. We honestly share our experience when it comes to the challenges you might face when you do your own upgrade, both organizational or technical. And in the last episode, we explain how to prepare the plan for the IFS Cloud Upgrade project. You can find links to all the episodes in the description below this video. Please share this material with your colleagues and others who may be interested in upgrading to IFS Cloud. We wish you a successful upgrade project. Thank you.